Cool. Bum, 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 bum. Hi guys, and welcome to Airtime, the show where we speak to young creatives about life in their industries.
Today we've got our guest Milo Blake, director, who's going to come on and talk to us about his work. So we have been partnered today for this episode with Two Keys, who have kindly sent us some nice mixes of theirs, pink grapefruit and some tequila. So cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Welcome,
Chin.
Milo.
Yeah,
Good
happy
to have
to
you,
be
man.
The cocktail, we wanted to think of a punny name, and the best one we could come up with was Lights, Camera, Tequila. So Milo, tell us, how did you get into directing?
Oh, Jesus. I think it started probably with my parents. My mum used to be an actress and my dad was a director. In my house, we have like a library of DVDs, and so I kind of had like a bit of a film school education from young.
Forced into it, watch this.
I mean, that was kind of how it worked. Like my dad would kind of slip me DVDs and be like, "You'll like this," you know.
You guys worked on anything together?
We talked about it, to be fair, but I think right now it's more conversation. I think, when you're on a set, you're in a completely different state of mind, because it's hella pressure. Right. I don't know how mine and my dad's relationship would work under those circumstances.
It could go one way or another, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it could be blessed, or we could be end up scrapping at the
end. So what have you been working on recently?
So I've actually been working on something that is not really like my usual kind of kettle of fish in terms of work. I've been working with this musician called Orla, who's like more of a pop star, and kind of like my kind of usual work is kind of with slightly alternative artists, I guess,
You go mainstream with it.
Well, I mean, how I wanted to approach my work was I'd like to be thought of as being quite versatile and just trying my hand at many different things. Some might flop and some I might work out I've actually got a bit of a knack for. Every job is different and every artist is different. So you have to learn how to adjust to each one and try and take lessons learned from each project that you do.
Yeah, but then it must be difficult because it's not necessarily going to be a one size fit all
it's
situation.
Definitely not. And that's another thing. As a director, the hard thing is trying to marry up, what you creatively want to be working on, and also being able to sustain yourself. Money. Ideally, I'd love to be working with a Frank Ocean and I'm getting paid stacks and it's super creative music, whatever. Yeah. In the current situation that I'm in, it's a decent challenge for me, and it's stuff that I'll learn from and gain experience from.
So with your jobs, do you normally get hired to do a job, or does anyone fund you to do your own creative projects? How does it work?
So basically how it works is you have a commissioner who kind of works at a label, and their kind of role is basically to kind of match directors to artists and
cool.
kind of
that's
certain briefs.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of useful.
Okay.
Largely they are helpful because it's a kind of buffer between your side, which is the production, and then the side which is purely music orientated, which is the label. But you need to be kind of about your hustle. So if you can see artists that you like and kind of feed into what you want to do, then you kind of need to be hitting them up in the DMs, making
put yourself out there.
Putting yourself out there, exactly. And then once you get to a certain stage, it's more a case of them coming to you if they recognise you've got a certain voice in your work and a certain style that they really fuck with. I think, to be honest, I've been quite lucky. Last year was kind of my big breakout year in terms of getting my name out and kind of attention to my work. And I was quite fortunate in the sense that it was a case of I do a piece of work with one artist, and then it would kind of springboard onto another and another, all within a certain scene. Bit of a word of mouth thing.
Yeah, that's life.
It's also been quite helpful that the artists that I've worked with, they're kind of on the up and up in terms of their trajectory, in terms of who's looking at them. So working with them has also brought more eyes to me. Yeah. And it's just a fortunate case of just a dual kind of rise. Yeah. So I'm still trying to find that artist who really kind of breaks and like makes me stacks.
It's gonna come. So is it normally
you're
coming up with the creative ideas, or do people just come to you with like a brief of what they want?
So they have a brief.
Yeah.
It might be that they want, it to be kind of like choreography inspired, or they kind of want like a 90s vibe, or they want a narrative, or, there'll be little kind of like stimulus points which you need to kind of build off as a director. And, the ones who will be the better directors will be those who can put the most creative spin on it. I mean, sometimes the briefs can be a little bit stifling because it's very much like, we want this, and this, and this. And it's like, well, where's my input? And then other ones will be a little bit more open, and, you can really let your imagination run wild. But sometimes I find that a little bit difficult because it's like, I could do fucking anything in this situation. It's kind of overwhelming. So like a little bit of shape is always helpful. And then as long as there's like some degree of creative freedom to kind of like flex it a little bit, that's always helpful.
So the question I had was like, what actually is a director? What are your jobs? What's your role? Yeah, tell me.
I mean, it's quite a big role. Like I would say that, the seed of the idea, or like what you're trying to do, comes from the director for the most part. And you are kind of like the supervisor and coordinator and architect,
you're the boss man
of how that is executed, from the stages like in pre-production, making sure that they kind of understand what you want. And then when it comes to the shoot, it's about being able to make sure that that is actually executed on the day how you want, because you can prep as much as you want, but
there's
even
other
on
people
the day,
involved.
There's other people, but also there's always an unknown element where you're in the situation. It's like, actually this
the camera's not charged.
Well, this isn't this isn't working how we expected it to. So you got to react to that, and then when you finished, it's about putting it together and trying to find the most creative way to do that. That's all kind of like creative management kind of stuff. But then there's also stuff where it's very much about how you manage people, because everyone's got an ego, and they're all kind of
especially in the creative world.
100%,
and they're all a bit sensitive about things.
100%, man. Like creatives they're a bit fragile as individuals sometimes.
My own personal work. Be rude about.
Fuck you.
So
like, it's also about knowing, personalities and trying to get like the best chemistry between everyone. And
that is hard.
It's so fucking hard. At the end of the day,
just have the chair
it's also I mean, you could be like that, but it's actually so important, because if people don't back your vision, and they don't trust you, then the work is going to flop.
But do you get to do that clicky, the...
What? No,
you should have bought one.
Yeah, we should have bought one.
I haven't done it, to be fair. Like,
you've never done
project.
It?
No, because that's normally done by like the assistant camera
person. Oh, yeah, sorry. I've actually worked on set.
And I've never had a chair before either.
I don't give a chair.
No,
make one now. Let's get a bit of
paper.
You're not a real director if you don't have one, Milo. We'll get you off the show until you've got one.
No, if you guys maybe invest in a Deka-inspired chair, maybe that's what I'd bring to set.
Okay. Merch coming soon.
Merch in that form. You never know. You might have a few directors hitting you up for that.
Yeah.
Because they might be thinking, I mean, if you make
Milo's ops are going to come through.
Has there been any funny moments on set?
Well, there was quite a funny moment recently where in this idea that we had, the song is kind of like about passion and kind of love, sex, all these type of things, and we had to have quite a handsome model as part of the idea, and he had, I'm not gonna lie, this guy was quite dank as well. He had to have his top off in it, and like the makeup artist kind of had to put like oil on him to kind of make his muscles look good. And she was literally doing it for like 10 minutes, and I was thinking so he's got
Sweetheart,
enough. There's enough patting here. It's all good. Like, we don't have to push this anymore. And I was just watching this thinking, this is jokes.
The lockdown social media to join in.
I never thought I'd be doing a set where this is what is happening. But here I am.
So people have been deprived. So. The Man of the Dunes album, which is Archie Valentine's album.
For those who don't know, like our friend Archie is quite a unique character, and so we needed like a bit of a unique film to that. And we were traveling out in Japan, like we decided to do that with a bunch of mates, and we thought like, might as well make a film while we're out there. Like, it doesn't have to be like mad production value. Let's just shoot it on our phones, but let's try and still make it as creative as
You
possible.
shot it all
you
on
know,
your phones?
yeah, like still,
sick.
That
you
is
know,
amazing.
you know, still like an interesting narrative, you know, and really make use of kind of like these quite unique surroundings that are around us.
Where was it? It was like desert. Where is that?
So basically, like it starts.
Japan. Like,
It starts in Islington, where like me and Archie both live,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like a journey from Islington to Tokyo, and then we filmed some various bits in Osaka and Kyoto, but the dunes bit is in this area of Japan called the Tottori Sand Dunes, and that's kind of like on the side facing towards Korea, and it's a bit like a desert, weirdly. Like you wouldn't expect that to be in Japan. Like, oh,
they're both gone.
okay.
Darkness.
So, all good?
Yeah.
Yeah, alright, yeah. I mean, like,
You're right.
in the video, like, we obviously had this doll who is Archie's kind of like lover almost.
Yeah.
And so when we were filming that, like, round the streets of Japan, I was thinking, like,
they're gonna think
I'm so glad we're not getting like arrested or some shit for what we're doing, you know. But it was all worth it.
Oh, them British people.
I know, like I really felt like we were kind of like slightly degrading such a place with such rich cultural history, and here these two boys have rolled up
with a blow-up
and just
doll.
making a mockery of it. You know?
No, it's sick though. It's sick.
What would you say is the worst part about being a director?
Ooh.
Let's get the fucking realness
spill
out here,
the
man.
tea.
We're not having no fake show. We want the.
You say you've done a piece of work, like, and you've put like your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and then it gets like picked apart, you know, by maybe people who you feel like don't really have the right to kind of like.
Wait,
really,
so who?
Like
the details.
I mean, like
Who said this, bro?
All at them.
It's just sometimes tricky when, you know, you've really like tried to like make this as best as possible and really trying to sculpt it, and you have a fair amount of experience, and it gets unpicked by people you just think like
you don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. You know, if I was speaking to a musician, I wouldn't tell them how to make a track.
Yeah.
You know, there's been a recent incident where like basically like slyly my work has kind of been stolen or passed off as someone else's.
Oh my god, no.
Yeah, man. Like,
who's doing this?
Who?
No, I'm
We
not
can't
gonna,
be-
No, tell us.
I'm
We'll
not,
get
I'm,
them.
I'm not. I appreciate you.
Tell
us after, innit?
That makes me
But
sad.
like that is super frustrating.
What
Like,
if they copied then? If they just copied like a concept?
you're in the idea forming stage, and like you then might get kind of like pushed aside for whatever reason. You know, something will get thrown up as to why that is, and then you'll see the video later down the line, and then you'll be like,
God.
"That's my shit."
That's
like,
my thing.
What
you
the
know,
fuck?
So they
it's
just
so-
use it anyway, but they don't
Let's
credit
sue
you,
them.
basically.
I mean, that's
Now.
the problem.
It's
you know.
hard because it's just an idea. You
But
can't copyright. You
That's
can't be
the
like,
thing, like it's so murky.
But
that
it
it's
is,
really
like-
hard to be able to like claim. I mean, there
But
are
you're in the creative
there are
industry.
emails.
It's a moral thing, man.
It
It's a moral thing.
It is. I think the thing is that it's hard to know how much is to gain from kicking up a stink because you know
you might just make yourself look like a prick.
exactly like actually you know it happens quite a lot, and that's the kind of the shame of the industry. But it's hard to know when is the right moment with which
it
to
out.
be
Pick it
like
up, yeah.
put a stance on it. I mean, I do think that, you know, you do really want to try and like check corrosive behavior like that, but at the same time, you know, there is a best instance with which to do that.
So, you have been nominated and won some awards.
I don't think I've won any awards.
Maybe you didn't win.
I've been nominated though, yeah.
I thought you won.
It's fine.
Oh, you didn't win. That's still sick though. The video Forget Mine got selected at loads of film festivals.
Yeah, it did.
That is fucking sick. Congrats. mate.
Yeah. That was
What festivals were they? Like, did you get to go to any?
So I did, yeah. So the biggest one that it got selected for was South by Southwest.
Fucking sick. That's so sick, man.
Honestly, like that is, you know, if I had
It's
to
a
like,
massive
if
achievement.
I had to pick like a pinnacle moment, because I was actually able to like physically be there at the festival, and it was like,
Oh, that's sick.
and it was in America, and this is, you know,
Whereabouts is
Wow.
it?
so
Oh my
it's in
days.
like Texas,
Austin,
yeah.
Texas, yeah. And
Wow.
considered that this was like I was 20 when I made that, and you know it was very much like it was kind of made in a bedroom largely, in terms of like the scale of the production we were on and the fact that it could cross the Atlantic Ocean and be seen by people in that, and also be like alongside videos which are like seminal pieces of work, like Childish Gambino's "This Is America."
Mate,
to me, that is like
it's
fucking crazy, and I was feeling like the man.
Absolutely ballistic. Like,
but
sick.
funnily enough, while I was out there, obviously in Austin, they have like these they have the electronic scooters. And like, me and Arthur, my editor, who was with me on the trip, we were just whipping about on these, and then we were heading to watch a short film, and I just completely crashed to this electric scooter, busting my head up. And obviously, being in America, you have to pay for that shit.
Oh, mate!
So I was like, this is not the one, and I had to spend 5 hours in A&E.
You have to get stitches in that?
Yeah, all sorts. But like, it was one of them weird
masking tape. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
save that 200 quid.
When our next kind of viewing of our music video came in, I had this fat plaster on my head. And everyone's asking me like, "Yo, what happened?"
I crashed an electric scooter.
Don't know.
You've got to make some like macho story.
Yeah.
Like
should have seen the other guy fucking battered him.
That's amazing though. That's such a good achievement.
No,
that's
honestly,
mental.
like
20 years old.
It was amazing, man. Like,
so you've been nominated for best stuff as well, best music video narrative.
Yeah, so at the
UK hip hop video.
at the UK MVAs, that was the one that happened last year, and that was also like really sick because as an award ceremony within the UK, it's kind of like the BAFTAs for music videos.
So what videos were they?
I had two there, fortunately enough. So I had Being Me, which is a video with Lewis Culture, and then I had a video called Different with Cambu and Lord Apex.
Sick. That one's sick. Is that the one with like the panning?
So it's like the
shot.
360 camera.
Yeah. So fucking cool.
Yeah, I mean, like these artists that I worked with on that, I feel very fortunate that I was able to work with them because I think they're very much our generation sense of London,
for real,
and I really appreciate being able to have a hand in the way that they are visualised, basically. So I feel very privileged. The sad thing about that situation with the UK MVAs is that normally they have like a fat big party at the Roundhouse and shit, and
that would have been sick,
and obviously because it was COVID, we were all watching it on some like some dead Zoom
in your
link
pajamas,
where like, I was watching my video
cuppa,
and it was like bare glitchy, and I was like, this is no shit.
That's really annoying.
Just have to go back to the herbal tea.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to other aspiring directors or people who are like, starting up?
It's tough, man, because there's never like one way of doing it, and everyone's kind of way of directing each has their merit. Just keep making stuff, I think that's the best thing to do. Is I think as long as you're constantly creating, then you just get more adept at it with time. If you've got a camera and you've got someone who does creative shit also, then make something happen.
Collaboration.
Collaboration,
just
exactly.
Do it yourself.
Just do it. You've got to kind of like take a dip in order to know whether you're really about it or not. And if you don't, then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot a little bit.
So for our Over to You, Milo is going to talk us through the Lava LaRue Magpie video that he's directed recently. So tell us a bit about the concept behind it before we start watching.
Okay, so it's kind of like a subcultural journey through kind of like various, groups of kind of styles and subcultures, exactly. But the way that we kind of view these is a journey through a series of train carriages.
How did you get your hands on that?
So basically there is a very kind of like strange transport museum that has a tube carriage which they kind of rent out for various productions, and it was basically a case of each time we do kind of like it would be split up into 3 phases. And once we had done one phase, it would just be a case of resetting each time, and then you kind of just make that feel seamless in terms of the
illusion that you're just walking through carriage after carriage.
Yeah, exactly.
So talk us through. So we've got
this character that you're about to see right here is kind of the corrupt property developer, because that is a little bit of an issue in our city at the minute.
Yeah.
And you see him kind of nabbing some coins, and then we go through to Lava, and kind of this is kind of like her working through a period of kind of like, you know, nationalism that might have been present in the 80s, but also, you know, trying to present something that is a little bit more positive about, you know, a cultural state of Britain at this point in time. So you got the two-tone guy, and he's having a chat with the punk girl, and then we come back onto Lava, you know, who was great in terms of giving that on-screen
the
charisma.
energy.
Yeah, you know, and she's kind of like our kind of like navigator through this kind of timeline. Yeah, she's kind of like our David Attenborough through this world.
For real.
So we're faking into the next little section now.
And then she pops there, and so this is kind of highlighting certain kind of like social struggles that have occurred throughout the last kind of like 30 years, you know, and then she's about to kind of reach what we call like the carny kind of rave phase. You know, Lava is very much a West London girl, so it was quite important to highlight this, you know, as kind of like a London moment that is such a like a London thing as well. And then he kind of swipes across, and now this is kind of like our grime individual, you know, highlighting
some bars.
that aspect. You know, he's kind of writing his bars, practicing what he's written. This is kind of an allusion to food banks, because, you know, that is a current kind of thing that really we shouldn't have to be facing up to, but we are. And this is kind of a bit of an allusion to Grenfell as well, in terms of like money has been drained,
for real.
you know, and kind of like it's very much being taken advantage of.
I love that. This is banging the fag out on it as well.
Yeah, this is kind of the Magpie was always kind of meant to be a representation of kind of like what everything has led up to, you know, and we used like a really interesting kind of like non-binary actress to kind of like portray this, you know, and I think that it was really great to do that. And, you know, this is kind of just like a flickering through everyone, you know, and this is kind of like some moments where now that we pass through this timeline, you're kind of seeing these moments kind of frozen in time now that they're kind of like in the past. And basically what we did on the windows here was create like a stained glass effect, because we kind of wanted it to be like, you know, almost kind of a little bit like
a church.
I don't know, but almost like a bit spiritual to the element of kind of where we're at right now. And, you know, this is kind of everyone together just vibing, really.
How the tune works, isn't it? All the different kind of people.
I mean,
but
this
normally
is kind
no
of
one
like,
talks to each other.
well, I mean, like this was kind of, you know,
we wish it was like that.
We wish it was like this on the tube. This is kind of
man.
everyone vibing together, you know, and I should say, like, when we highlighted the non-binary person to do the kind of role, it's actor and actress. So
I'm
super
you,
pleased.
Milo, you have absolutely smashed
honestly,
it.
my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you
One
for
of the Deka
coming.
family now.
Thank you.
Yeehaw! Giddy up!
Where can we find your work?
Yeah.
Where can we see your stuff?
Like
Very, very talented individual, guys. You
Oh,
wanna
thank you.
check it out.
Check him out.
Thank you.
Where can they pre?
So you can find it on my Instagram, which is like _H Blake, and then you can also find it on my Vimeo if you type in Milo Blake. All my work's up on there. So whenever you got a minute, check it out.
Check it out. And if you've got a lot of money and you want to be doing something,
And you want a music
slide
video,
into his DMs
Yeah, for real.
and get him a fucking chair because he wants one.
The chair is essential.
I only want it if it's a Deka chair.
Yeah. That's like deck chair.
Yep, there you go.
Well, thanks so much for coming on,
you
Milo.
so much.
Amazing guest.
Amazing
And
having
cheers
you.
for watching, guys. Follow the ting, subscribe, all of that.
Do all the button pressing that you need to do.
Do that.
Button pressing. Right, sweet. Okay. Boom.
Thank you.